Hi, and welcome to our presentation on boss battles and co-op and how we would create a co-op boss battle level. Boss battles are great at segmenting games and giving them climactic final acts. The Ender Dragon is to me one of gaming's best because it hits every beat of a boss battle and gives every type of player a rewarding experience. The Ender Dragon fight starts when the player finds the end portal, activates it, and jumps through the end dimension. The player then finds their way to the main arena and sees the dragon itself. Then the player has to fend off the dragon while taking down the crystals on the towers. When the player takes down the crystals and the Ender Dragon can no longer heal, it's up to the player to kill it. The Ender Dragon now comes down to the center more often and breathes dragon's breath to harm the player. Once the player hits the final blow, it explodes in the sky in a glorious way with lights and XP showers. Finally, the game has been beat.
The Ender Dragon boss battle rewards every player type described by Ritual Bartle: the Socializer, the Explorer, the Achiever, and the Killer.
Firstly, the socializer gets an amazing experience out of the fight with friends, which makes the fight more easy, along with all the players being able to perform specific roles. Like one group can go and fight the dragon, while the other goes and destroys the pillars, for one example. There is also plenty of rewards from this fight and allows everyone to get something, like mountains of XP, the dragon egg, and along with new lands to explore. Which leads into the next type of player, explorers, who after beating the End Dragon get to the End Island and the End Cities which they can explore and loot, with elytras found in cities giving the player the power of flight, which makes it much more easier to transport around the worlds. The achievers get a lot of end game milestones. This includes the Ender Dragon Egg, which there will only be one of, the end achievement, which soft concludes the game, along with the end credits after jumping through at the portal home, and the access to the further end dimensions with a few more achievements to collect. Finally, the killers get to beat the End Dragon, one of the biggest, toughest bosses in the game, along with all the Endermen that spawn in the biome. Killing the dragon also gives access to the player to conquer a whole new world.
Defeating bosses in video games can go in many ways. Look at the Wither from Minecraft, for example. When fighting this boss, or in past tense, the resource attains, to fight this boss, it must be summoned by using different materials that can be found around the world in the game. With the subject of co-op, players can easily put their own time in-game to achieve those materials and resources worldwide to attempt to fight the boss. This shows that co-op can be useful, especially if you're in the middle of gathering resources to summon a powerful enemy, especially if it's the strongest enemy found in the game itself. It is much better than playing the game by yourself, since having a group of people trying to gather everything needed will make the entire scenario so much better for everyone, including yourself. The value proposition is a topic that discusses why do players tend to do this in-game. Well, the primary reason is that the players are trying to defeat this boss because the boss holds a very rare item that can only be achieved by killing it. The same item can also be crafted into another item that easily gives powerful buffs for the players. By defeating a very strong enemy, players can attain an advantage like that boss from the item they achieved. Despite the whole risks by achieving these rewards, players will always have to be well prepared to attain this goal. By achieving this item, their very own gameplay will always be improved and increase when playing the game themselves.
But what exactly is co-op before we start looking into it? Co-op games are a form of play or sport in which the players with one or another order achieve a common objective. So this could be, for example, one player could pick up the key whilst the other player has to use the key to unlock the door. The goal is to reduce emphasis in competition and increase on social aspect of play, and that's a source from techtarget.com. So usually you would require two players to complete the game with some form, so having one player a different set of tools to play to complete the game. This isn't always the case, but in this example we can see one Corey has a key and the other Corey has a lock, and together they can unlock it and proceed with the level. This could be a locked door, it could be obtaining an item. So some games of co-op would be something like It Takes Two, which won Game of the Year in 2021. The co-op takes two different roles, where the parents are divorced, and the players actually have the same role, but the level design actually splits both players up. So one player can go, for example, to the left side, and the other player can go to the right side. And then this would let the players decide who does what. So one person could be doing one side of the map, whilst the other person does the second. This isn't determined by the role. Another game would be Fireboy and Watergirl, which is the king of math games. This co-op gives players two different abilities where Fireboy picks up the red gems and walks in lava, and the Watergirl picks up the blue gems and walks in water. So what this actually introduces is a new dynamic where both players have a different role and work together, where in the other one, if we go back, here you can see that they have the same role and element aside, where each player has a role which they have to rely on with each other.
So what makes co-op so engaging? Since we're on about the topic, competition. Competition can bring people together. It's how we know who's better than who. It can lead to arguments, but typically, let's say you're playing football, it's all friendly at the end of the day. Number 2, collaboration. Nearly the opposite of competition. It lets us enjoy the presence of others. So, you're in a group, you're playing, what's a game? Rainbow Six Siege. You're going to need to collaborate with others. You need to tell people where the enemies are. If you don't, the team dies, thus leading you to fail the objective of the game, which is to get an hostage. I don't know. Number 3, hanging out. Yeah, hanging out. You heard me. Used to be, you'd go to the pub, you'd have a few drinks, but nowadays, let's jump on Red Dead Redemption 2, man. But no, video games can be used as a way to converse with others. It's a good way to do it. Some people are just socially awkward, and it helps them find an understanding, I guess. Which leads us into number 4. You get to learn more about people, about their moral codes and whatnot. Yeah, I know, really weird, right? Sounds weird when it's coming up my mouth. Number 5, learning more about ourselves. More so, how much of a leader we can be and stuff like that. All this was from Jesse Schell's The Art of Games Design, A Book of Lenses. I believe that's the title. Should be, unless it's changed. So implement these ideas into a boss fight. Our brief is to make a non-violent boss fight. So how would we do this using the previously mentioned engaging features of co-op? I think for it to work, we need a hook, a good story premise, something that's engaging, something that tells the player do no harm. So we're going to take Minecraft's The Ender Dragon, and we're going to do something different. Typically you kill him, or her, or it. Pronouns. We're going to do something a little bit different. Ruby should be next. If not, someone else.
The idea for our non-violent co-op boss battle has 2 phases. The players will enter the dungeon, dramatic music begins to play as they see a dragon trapped in loose chains. The first phase starts. Player 1 will have to do dances using arrows that appear like TDR, similar to Friday Night Funkin' battles. If player 1 makes a mistake, then the dragon may attack player 2, who is doing parkour and quick-time events to break the dragon's chains. Once player 2 has broken 2 of the 4 chains, phase 2 will start. The people who have captured the dragon will make the room dark and pull the only light source away from player 1, who must put on the dragon costume pieces that they have collected throughout the game and chase the spotlight to keep the dragon's attention. Once all the chains are broken, the dragon realizes that it's free, thanks the players, and escapes with them, riding off into the sunset. We think this is an engaging and enjoyable boss battle with appropriate reward and challenge for the players. It allows players to interact and cooperate with each other towards a common goal, with a satisfying endpoint as well as the other beats previously mentioned. While this boss battle suits a game that doesn't take itself seriously, it still allows for serious players like killers and achievers to enjoy the gameplay.